What's up, Cash Crew, and welcome back to another episode of Cash Talks today here at Dude IDK Studios. I'm so excited to be joined by one of my extra special guests and friends today, someone that I've had such a pleasure and a joy getting to know over the last little bit, and I know you all are going to love getting to know them as well. So today, I'm joined by no other than the one and only Eugene Page. Hey.
Hello, birthday girl.
Hello. I know. In 2 days, it's going to be my birthday. So I'm like, 31, here I come.
31 and never looking better.
You know, I'm calling it flirty.
You're like in that, good, because you're like in that golden age, so just enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm like.
Live it up.
Yeah, I feel like 30 was that year of so many transitions for me. And like.
I remember.
Yeah, and now I'm like, okay, like I see what everyone talks about. And now we're headed to the next one, 31. So here we go.
There you go.
I know. So it's my birthday week. We're going to be getting into all the things, chatting about all the events coming up in our lives, and just all the things we've been working on behind the scenes as well. And I'm freshly in from my performance trip to LA. So
I know.
I get a little zombie mode today. then
I'll help you. I'll send you some energy.
Right. So I'll be energy. Yeah.
I'll be like 10-second naps over.
Come back. We're recording now. Come back. Oh my gosh. Well, before we get into everything today, I want to go ahead and give Eugene just a little bit of time to give a little backstory, just some things that, you know, your career-wise, things you've gotten into along the way, a little bit of background about you. Just give us a little something today. Yeah.
Thank you, Samora. Hi, everybody. So I've had quite a creative, artistic journey. Went to school and received a vocal performance degree in opera because my mother was an opera singer, and then was like, no, that's not really me. So I moved to LA years ago, and I recorded a dance album. Original music. I went from opera to dance. Then my journey continued. I mean, I've done everything from musical theater. I've worked in New York, LA, Miami, Denver now is the home front. My husband and I have a small production company called Ebner-Page Productions. And so we do everything from we're working on some films, holiday-themed movies. Ooh. And we'll talk in a little bit. I'm also kind of diving back into producing some drag shows.
Yes.
And you inspired that, so thank you.
Well, you know what? When you're friends with a drag queen, you just never know what's going to happen.
Right? And back in the day, I dabbled a bit.
Yeah.
I'm a little older now, but I still want to have fun with it.
Well, I know the story of you dabbling in a little bit of drag. How about you give a little background story to the drag persona?
Well, when I was your age, I know that sounds silly, but when I was like 29, 30, 31, I went through a Wonder Woman phase. And when I say that, I've always loved her, especially Linda Carter. Yeah. And grew up spinning and twirling to her. And so I had this idea to dress up as Wonder Woman, record the song, make a dance remix, do a music video. Yeah. And it kind of took off at that time period. It was before Drag Race. Right. But I ended up performing at the National Capitol in DC's Pride right before Jennifer Holliday, and sold the CD mixes at Tower Records back in the day when we still had Tower Records. So that kind of tells you my age. But anyway, but it's like it was so much fun, and I just love becoming characters, and I love what drag is, it's so obviously it's just it's such a freeing, fun, magical experience, and now it's to the next level, right? I mean, it was a little different then, but I love it, and I love drag performers, drag queens, the community, and I think it's really important and valid right now to continue to put the message out there too.
And it really is that like freeing ability. That's why I think what I love so much about the art form itself is like I sometimes feel like I'm the realest version of myself that I've ever been when I step into my persona, obviously like the person behind it all is still there, but there's just really something so freeing and just something about it that allows you just to feel like there's nothing holding you back at all. Like you can just be yourself. And that's one of the greatest things I think about drag in general. And I think that's the energy that it gives to other people watching as well.
Right. It's you feel empowered. Yeah. And I think at least for me speaking, even though I don't do it as much of you, although when I say coming back into it, I am going to perform here and there in my own way and in my own style, primarily probably singing live because that's what I like to do. But it's an outlet to really kind of let the girl out, as I call it, at least for me, and really kind of balance that feminine, masculine energy and become something else and empower yourself. But also it's fun and it's magical and see, and I love glamour, and color and glitter and. So I love that part of it too. The wind machines, which you had in LA. I saw
a little bit of wind. You know,
I can't never go wrong with the wind machines.
Right. The Beyonce fans are real. Like that is like I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to be a real superstar. I like the whole
it's like owning it, right? And that's what Queen Bee does, right?
Yes, and it's like the choreography and just everything about it, like all the energy that goes into it alone is amazing. But you've seen drag for a long time now. Like, what are some things around it that you feel like have changed or you've seen changed or you enjoy more maybe then than you do now or vice versa? Like, are there things that you've seen?
Well, I definitely feel like back in my 20s, even in Denver in the drag scene, there's always been a presence and there's always been an incredible community in the sense of where I felt welcomed for the most part. Yet it's gone to another level, right? The professionalism. Right. You really have to be, anyone watching, when you see a drag performer nowadays, like you or others, it's a full craft, right? You got to be the way you look. You got to be on it with your lip syncing with your lyrics, or if you sing live, your dance moves. I mean, people are doing death drops, right? There wasn't as much of that back then. And of course, RuPaul, again, along with the rest of the world and society and his producers in the show, took it to the next level, and all the queens that he's helped put out there, but they're carrying the torch, right? You're carrying the torch.
Right.
So it's really just the next level, but I think it's even more than that. I think it is so important right now because it is creating a stir, but that's what we really need, in my opinion. We need it. We need to say, you know what? We're all important. And we're all, special within our creativity, and how I want to show up or how I want to identify or how I want to express myself. Drag opens that. And I think you'll see even on different shows when men that identify as straight come on and are like, I'm going to do this. And it changes their lives, even in that one moment in time.
Yes.
It opens something up, because I think part of the issue for me that I see with people is they're not balanced. They're either out of sort with their masculinity or out of sort with their femininity or whatever. And I think sometimes when you tap into one that you're not comfortable with, you become more of who you are, maybe.
Yeah, I feel that. And I've seen and watched shows where, straight men get put into drag and the whole thing that you were kind of just talking about a little bit. And it is so wild to see them come into that persona.
Totally.
And to break down that wall of what they think their limits are, or what they think that they're able to do, or what's acceptable and what's not. And I feel like that's so much of kind of what these shows entail a lot of times. Whenever you're bringing these straight men into that kind of world, or straight people in general, they're like, wow, like this is what it is. And we see so many people standing on the outside throwing stones because they don't understand it.
They're afraid.
But then when you come into it and you actually get a feel for what it actually is, it kind of changes the perspective of it a lot.
I think so too. And I think that at the end of the day, we could all use more fun, more joy, more magic. To me, and humor. Not taking yourself so seriously.
Right.
And I think some people are like, that's the same thing if you go to a comedy show or an improv show, right? It's like people are being like kind of authentically themselves, but also making fun of themselves a bit. And I think drag, you can take yourself seriously and really step it up and be powerful, yet also kind of have fun with it or make fun of it at the same time, which people can relate to.
Right.
There's a lot of humor in it as well.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one part of it that I love. It's like being able to feed off an audience or being able to like just interact in that way. And I think that's also with comedy as well. It's like you're really feeding off of that energy and understanding it more and getting into that side of it. But I also feel like there's just this visibility that I feel like drag brings on. And then it's like, that's another part that I feel like people have issues with, is they want things to be one way. And like our world is just not that way.
No.
Like Sunday was just Trans Day of Visibility. And it's like, so many people just want to erase either drag queens, drag kings, like trans people, you know, the list goes on.
Well,
but
the entire LGBTQ community
literally.
plus because they want to control what was.
Right.
They're fearing change. You know what? The world is spinning right now.
Right.
The earth, it's spinning. Everything's changing, moving, right?
Yeah.
So why should we stay where we were? I don't think we're supposed to.
No.
Not from my truth and perspective.
No.
So they're like stalling out and they're projecting it onto the rest of us who are embracing, I think, who we are. Whether we have fear, sadness, anger, trauma, whatever it is. A lot of times because we're special, unique, and different, that's why we have all of that.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of, you know, put onto us.
Right.
You're different, so you're wrong. You're weird. You're this. No, I'm awesome. I'm a light.
Right.
I'm amazing, and I'm owning it. So, you know, get out of my energy field.
Right. Literally. Because we're cranking up the energy in here. Okay?
Yes.
It's like, it is so true. And it's like so many people want, I feel like, the world to just look one way.
Right.
And it's like, that's not ever what it was meant to be.
And how boring.
And yeah, literally. And also, newsflash, drag, trans people, black people, the list goes on, have been around since the beginning.
Right.
Okay, so
that's another thing.
Get it twisted.
It's another thing. And then, you know, not going off on all of this, but I'm going to say this. Whatever you believe in, a higher power, God, nothing, source, whatever you want, you know, we're all part of it.
Right.
So give it all a chance. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I wanted to get into a little bit more of your career too, and just give us like kind of what has been your maybe creative processes along the way, and kind of your journey of becoming like an actor, a performer, a producer, like all these different outlets. Kind of like, what has that creative process looked like, and what have you tapped into to kind of be able to get to where you are now with all of that?
That's a good question. Thank you. You know, I'm one of these people that's always been more of a entrepreneur energy and more of a leader energy. And it's not that that's better than, it's just who I am.
Right.
And so I'm not one that ever really fits into a box. And I think for a long time, I was trying to push myself into a box. Even when I was in LA in my 20s, it was like, okay, to do this, I have to do that. And of course, because it's set up a certain way, especially show business, it's changed and evolved a little bit. But you know, the time period I was in, we didn't have there was no Facebook yet when I first started off.
Right.
So the presence, we didn't have YouTube yet. So for me, I had to find ways to really get myself out there, like physically in person. Networking was huge then. You know, so for me, I had to like find my way, but also like clear up all that stuff about my childhood. And because I was raised in a very extreme Republican, conservative, Christian home. And I never felt that was who I was. I always felt different.
Yeah.
Right. And luckily, my mother, rest her soul, she's deceased now, but she was very loving and supportive regardless of her belief system.
Yeah.
And she did see my talent and my value and my worth, yet also tried to control and mold it. And I think that's why I went into opera. I have the voice for it, but it always felt restricted for me, and it felt limiting, and it felt like the past.
Yeah.
Singing stuff that was written hundreds of years ago. So I'm one of, let's make it different. Let's evolve. Let's change. So, you know, that's what I had to realize. So even like the Wonder Woman project, that was me stepping out to say, I'm going to do my own thing. And sometimes when you do your own thing, you have to go through a lot of no's, or a lot of, why are you doing this? A lot of people were threatened by that too. Nowadays, I think people are more used to it. So I feel like finally in the place that I am, and I'll just out myself with my age, who cares? I just turned 50 last fall. So, you know,
looking good at 50.
Thank
Come
you.
on, man.
I know, I got to get over that too. But you know what? We live in a society where it is very valued of staying youthful. So I kind of defy it in my own way, but I also want to embrace it because I'm also grateful that I'm still here, that I'm alive, that I've learned, that I've grown, and I'm actually enjoying life more than I ever have.
Right.
So age doesn't have to be a negative thing, but again, a lot of times it's like between the age of 20 and 30, that's like the golden thing in show business. And it's like, yeah, but you don't really even necessarily, not all people, know yourself fully. So you're stepping into the best, I think, because you already went through that. The 20s are messy. And that's okay. Why shouldn't they be?
Exactly.
I mean, we went from, you know, high school, and if we chose to go to college or not or whatever, but like your 20s, you're like, who am I? Having fun, figuring it out. It's messy. It's this. Then you start to mature in your 30s. And then when you hit your 40s, you're like, oh, wow, this is what it's about. And then 50, I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh, man, already?
Right. How are we here?
How are we here? But
yeah.
to me, I think it's going to be my best decade if I can keep myself healthy, vibrant. That's why I do everything I can to, to stay that.
Yeah.
So kind of circling back to what you're saying, I feel like in my life right now, I'm more stepping into the producer role, but I love it because I'm more of a visionary. I love managing. I love connecting. I love bringing people together, and I like taking it to the next level. So when I say that I'm working with a movie producer right now, it's holiday themed films, and I'm stepping in and kind of helping them take it to the next level.
Absolutely.
And that's what I like to do. But it's sometimes you have to find your tribe, those people to co-collaborate with. Because when you find that, then it's like the pieces of the puzzle start to come together.
Absolutely.
When you're trying to force yourself also in a group of people that don't get you, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like fitting in, just going back to what you were saying about like fitting into boxes is like so many people I think feel like they have to be in a certain box.
Right.
They have to be in this certain lane and like nothing can like cross paths with each other. I have to stay here. If I move over there, that's getting away from what I'm doing. And it's like, no, it really is all like you can be able to do a little bit of everything, but you have to get out of your own restraints and like be able to say like, I'm allowed to do that. And I'm allowed to
allow
be
yourself.
in that space.
You have to give yourself the permission.
Exactly.
And once you do that, I think that's where I'm at too. It also depends again, like how we were raised and what we went through.
Right.
And I had a lot to clear up. I didn't really love myself very much. And I think I hid it well. Until I got into the intimate relationships, then it all came coming down. And they're like, "Oh, you're a hot mess, aren't you? You're a train wreck."
Yeah.
Because right, hey, But that's where you can look at your stuff and go, "Okay." But you got to be kind to yourself too.
Right.
So I think a friend of mine recently said, who's really stepping more into his life of, I'm saying yes now. Sometimes we go, no, I can't do that because it's maybe, like you said, not in the box.
Yeah.
And I also had to learn this. There's no shade or shame in wanting to be rich and famous, right? And the reason why I wanted to for a long time was because I wanted that life, yet I also was trying to prove to people that I was somebody. So I think it's the intention. You want to be rich and famous because that's what you want? Awesome. But if you're doing it for approval, at least
it's the wrong reason.
It was the wrong reason. And a lot didn't go the way it could have and I think that the fame and the money that gives you more opportunity, but then, the fame is fleeting. I think it really comes down to being able to do something that you love and making money and then being able to have freedom, explore, and inspire.
Yeah.
A lot of us want to inspire other people through it.
Yeah.
And if you have that intention, then I don't think you can go wrong.
Right. Exactly. And I feel like that's a lot of what I seek to get out of it. It's like, of course, the fame and the bigger opportunities and all that. It's so great. It's wonderful. But it's like, what are your intentions behind it? Like, are you wanting to make change? Are you wanting things like, are you wanting to push the needle forward? Are you like, what is your real intention? Because I feel like we're in a world today where like everyone wants to get instantly famous. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not a real reality. And then that's where the jealousy comes in because they're also like, well, I want this and why do you have it? You know what I mean?
Well, it's like, also a business.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the business side and you're just famous, good luck.
Yeah.
Because it can be taken away. You can get screwed. People take advantage of you. But more importantly, you're just another number. You're a fleeting entity, as I call it. And that's a little bit of an issue that I see nowadays with the whole TikTok. No shade. You're famous on TikTok. Good for you. Because I do know the little bit that I've done, and you know this, takes a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of time, energy, and work. But you've noticed this sometimes on Drag Race and other shows as well, is that the ones that are influencers on social media that haven't maybe gone out and done the live shows or put themselves out there, they're like, oh, now I have to perform in front of people?
Yes.
Because they're used to, and it's a whole different thing on camera, right? It's in the moment and then you put it out later, unless it's live.
Yeah.
But again, you can do whatever you want in the comfort of a location, your home, or wherever you're at. But when you're really in front of people in that moment, you have to think on your feet.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to, because things happen, right? You know that. You're like, oh shit, my dress, my jumpsuit ripped.
Yeah.
Or my heel broke, or I just fell on my ass, or I'm kind of tired, or I'm kind of had a bad day. I'm kind of annoyed or pissed.
Yeah.
And I got to show up.
Yeah.
You have to, it's like really showing up in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's like with any creative industry at all. Like, it's like you really have to be able to tap into that because, I mean, we've both been there where we've shown up and probably not felt 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Been tired, been all the things. But then if you're not giving what you say you're going to give, then you're doing yourself and everyone that's watching a disservice.
Exactly.
Because now they're not getting what they were seeking to get out of your performance, the show itself, everything. And there's plenty of times, I'm sure, for myself, you too, is like when you get up there and you're like, well, that's not exactly how I thought that was going to go. Or like, you just have to be able to pivot.
Ebb and flow, pivot.
Yeah.
And this has been one of the hardest lessons for me, Samora, is that to not be so critical upon myself, because we all do it. Yeah. I used to be like, if I messed up even just one thing, live performance, I'd be like, damn it. And I'd focus on that instead of how amazing the rest of it was. Like when you came to the concert March 3rd and twirled with me. I literally, so many people don't know this, but I literally woke up that morning and had such like a sinus infection thing going on. Like it was all up in here and I could like barely talk. And I thought to myself, how the hell am I going to sing live tonight? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
It cleared up though. But of course, along with my husband really helping me, it was like, all the steam and I'm inhaling things and taking things. But you have to, it's like one of those things you have to push through.
And like those moments, I think, really test your mental strength.
Yes.
They test like, what are you willing to push through to really execute this career that you say that you want? Because like, of course, like so many people want to be a music artist or a drag artist or a performer of any kind. And like, but the real test is when you're put in these very difficult situations and times where like your back is against the wall, where gigs aren't coming through, money's not coming through, all these different...
The struggling artist part of it.
Yeah, all of those things that are getting thrown at you, like, are you able to push through that? Because that is what leads you ultimately to where... things get better in the other side of it all.
Right. And you grow as a human being if you choose to. You evolve through it. You learn. That's the wisdom piece. And that's another thing that I'm intending on embracing more now is I have more wisdom. So, yeah, I might be aging and look older and trying to fit in possibly a little bit in my own way of how do I show up where I'm at in my life.
Right.
But you know what? I'm special and unique, and I bring something to the table where I'm at.
Right.
And that's what's important, because back to even the social media. I use social media a lot. You know that.
Right.
But, it's also so fleeting. You can be a hot 1 minute, and then they move on to the next thing. So that's where what you're doing, multiple platforms of media, live shows, making connections in LA, you have to continue to hustle.
Yeah.
And
a bitch is tired.
And you are tired, right? Right? That's why you got to get your, what is the iPad with the ice?
I know. Yesterday, actually, funny, like pivot really quick is like before I left LA, my friends and I went and sat in a sauna and a spa.
There you
and,
go.
Just did that. And I was like, I don't want to leave because this is where I need to sit. But then I was like, no, there's like all these things that have to be done once I, get home. But it's like also part of that is like finding time to take care of yourself too.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's always what I intend to do is like, okay, I worked really hard. I pushed through. It was amazing. Then the next day, if I can, give a me day to kind of just bask in it. And I know you're working a lot, and it's your birthday week and your show and everything, but it's like sometimes when you can, even maybe after this week, give yourself a day or half a day to do something special for you that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Even if that means, I don't know, being outside or whatever you like to do.
Yeah.
Because then you do want to recharge too.
And like, I don't know if you have dealt with this or deal with it at all, but I struggle to give myself that time because I'm so used to being like, I need to hustle. If I don't hustle, then it's like, it's like this constant wheel that sometimes I feel like I can't get off of, but I'm trying to train myself to get better about giving myself those days. Cause as a hustler and as someone who works for themselves and produces events and all these things, it's like you can get caught up in constantly feeling like you have to respond to someone, constantly responding to an email, a phone call, a text, like all these things, and never really giving yourself any moment. And then that turns into irritability because you're not giving yourself a moment.
And then do you show up and of course it's also what you believe in. I believe very much in energy, right? And like we're our energy, it's all energy, and what you put out there can come back. So I look at if you can recharge, and I think it's a belief system in our society too, that if you keep going, but sometimes the recharging, you settle for a minute, you can listen to your own tuition better. You cannot take things so seriously. You know, I am pretty, like I said, on social media all the time, but like I will listen to my energy or my body or my mind or whatever and be like, okay, I got to take a day off. And I will like take a day, sometimes two, which is weird because I'm so used to it. When I take an entire day or 2 days off, I'm like, what's going on?
Where you just don't respond to anything?
Or I don't go on. No, I say, I'm not going on. But it's such, I guess, a form of possible minor addiction too of all of us because we're so used to it. So I'm like, we'll grab my phone and I'm like, wait, so I have to train myself. But when I take a day or two off like that and come back, I'm more myself. I feel better. I'm not as annoyed with other people.
Yes.
On there.
Things don't trigger you as hard.
As much. But I think so, like, that's something for you too, since you're so busy, is just think about it like this. If you give yourself a little time, even though you're used to hustling, there might be a moment in that where more will come in too.
Right. That's true. That's so true.
Right?
Yeah. And in the moments that I have taken that time and, like I said, trying to get better at doing it, like it does bring that clarity. Like it's like a cloud moves out of the way.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay. Like that's all I needed.
Got it, it's like recharging the battery.
Yeah. And if you're not recharging, like you were saying, like we're energy people. So it's like you're not able to give your energy in the same way that you would be if rest was behind it, you know? And
totally.
Like, there's a lot of power in doing that, but it's also saying like, yeah, I have to be able to give myself permission to do so, you know? But
totally.
that's just always such an interesting world whenever you're just grinding, hustling. Yeah. But one thing that like we both share in common is like our struggles with, you know, just kind of growing up both in religious backgrounds as well. Like that's been something that we share in common. And I feel like in my own way, and maybe this resonates with you too, is like I've been able to become so much more myself and comfortable because I had to break out of the cycles of what that looked like for me, you know, and like growing up in that and having like kind of, you know, not necessarily the support that you would want or like, you know, the understanding that you would, you know, want either, is like you really have to be able at some point to start to break out of that, to be able to kind of find who that person is that you want to present to the world, you know?
Right. And that means breaking away sometimes for a while or for a long time from certain family members that refuse to step out of the box again, that refuse to see, because in my perception, I have not parented children, although I am proud to say that I am, I guess, a step parent because my partner has grown kids but they're more like my friends.
Right.
I am older than them, so it works. But like, other than that, I never raised kids, right? But I feel like a lot of parents, or at least mine did, is they try to control based on what they went through and or who they are, and we're all individually different. Just because you bring a child into this world doesn't mean that's your property. Once they turn 18, let them be who they are.
Right.
You can, and projecting belief systems onto individual souls, as I say, human beings. No. Let them choose that for themselves.
Yeah.
And if you're teaching someone to conditionally love themselves and others, or judge others based on being different, then in my opinion, in my truth, you failed.
Yeah.
And we have to then do the extra work to heal, love ourselves, wake up and say, no, anything was not wrong with me.
Yeah.
You said there was, and that's not the truth.
Yeah. And eventually all that stuff does rear its head and like become such a real part of like what you like realize about yourself
and your self-worth.
Yeah.
So really what they're doing is limiting who you are. But then we're in choice to say, no, I'm unlimited.
Right.
I'm not limited.
Right.
You might be, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But again, and I think people are like, that's so disrespectful. Standing up for yourself is not disrespectful.
No.
Disrespectful is shaming who you are.
Mm-hmm.
We have to love, trust, respect, honor, celebrate ourselves. And that's what I try to do every day. But it took me a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Luckily, some people don't go through that.
No.
And they're like amazed. You know, at 20, they're like, oh my God, I love myself.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Literally.
Like 20.
Yeah.
And like being like, I'm amazing.
Right.
I know who I am, even if I am young.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And it's like that every day is changing. And like, it's an active change in yourself to say like, okay, these are the parts that I really need to work on. You know, these are the areas that I still struggle with. And it is part of what you've been through. And like you were kind of saying earlier, it's like a lot of times it really does present itself when you get into those intimate relationships with people. Like,
yeah, because there's mirroring.
There's all of that coming into play.
And well, and then, you know, once you become sexual, you let it all. I mean, now there's getting off sex. Mm-hmm. There's moment sex with anybody. Right. And then there's intimate, right?
Yep.
When you start to unravel and you're like, oh shit. They're seeing all of me, not just physically, but everything else too.
Yeah.
And then that's when the insecurities, the fear, and if we're people pleasers like I have been most of my life, then I'm going into more of a lower insecurity. Did I upset them?
Right.
Do they not want me anymore? Did I do something wrong? You know, and that's also like probably imbalanced codependency. That's a whole nother story. But like that's what I had to learn, is that because of the way I was raised, I was within my personality, I was constantly trying to get approval and please love me. And I want to please you, because if I don't,
I'll lose you.
And then what?
Right.
You know, but then you wake up or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, wait a minute. No, losing myself is the problem.
Yeah.
And
it's like we get so caught up in worrying that we're going to lose a person that whole time we're really just losing our person, which is ourselves, you know?
And, you know, and then when you wake up more to it and you evolve and grow through it, like for me, like I'm more excited about who I am than I ever have been, because I actually like myself now. And I actually, at the place of my life, I love my body more than I ever have.
Right.
I feel more sensual and sexual than I ever have.
Right.
But it's because I know myself more. At least that's what I feel.
Yeah. And you do the work too.
Yeah.
So like, and that's the other part that others just choose not to do at times. And it's like, you have to be the one, and that's with anything, like put in the work and see the results happen. But the results don't just come from you sitting around hoping.
No, and it doesn't come from just looking at TikTok or Instagram or whatever. I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of laziness out there too, but that's okay.
Yeah.
However people show up, that's up to them. That's their journey.
Right.
We really have to focus on ourselves. And I think there's a misconception, Samora, because I think I've seen this online a lot too. Some people are like, when you profess self-love, that's narcissistic. No, a lot of narcissism is not loving yourself. Because it's control, it's manipulation, it's trying to present something as a facade or a mask. And so if you really, in my truth, love yourself, then actually you're not narcissistic.
Right.
It's an internal love.
Right.
You become to know more of who you are.
Right.
And I think that's still like on a society base, we're trying to figure all that out. What does this mean? Because for a lot of years, I didn't even know what narcissism meant. I was like, what's that?
Right. And everyone throws that out like it's
now
like,
it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And then the self-love is thrown out everywhere. And depending on how you believe or don't, or what you've gone through, or if you've never thought about loving yourself, you're like, I don't know what that even means.
Right. How do I do that?
What do you mean?
Yeah. And it does become that. And I think when you are working through, you know, things that you've been through and who you are, like that's where that naturally comes up and comes about. It's not really that you're searching necessarily for this self-love, like, I don't know, guru necessarily. It's just like that comes out of you saying like, hey, these are the things that I know that I've been through. These are the ways that I've acted that I'm not proud of. And these are the things that I know that I need to focus my energy on to get to a point where I can love myself enough to come to the other side and say, that is me professing the love that I have for myself.
Bam, what you just said. Because it's really that, I think that's simple, even though it's not. If for years you didn't even know what it meant, or you shamed yourself, or other people were shaming you.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's not. And that's what I had to realize too. For a long time, I went into this guru thing or looked to someone else as a guru. We're our own gurus.
Right.
Now, we can look to people that have cleaned their shit up and say, oh, that inspires me.
Right.
I'm going to kind of check that out. But really, you have to do the work. You have to own it. And again, we've talked about this. I'm repeating myself, but everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how you show up in it's going to be your way of showing up in it. So if we all look to one person as the example, we're not them, but we can learn from them,
right?
If we want to.
Exactly. And like that's something that we all can choose to do as well. Is like I can choose to learn from someone. I can choose to look at their experience and get inspired and find ways to incorporate that into my own life. But that doesn't mean their journey is your journey. And like you have to be able to tap into what belongs to you,
Right. And that's what I think is the biggest issue, or one of the biggest issues in our society right now, especially in the United States, is that it's like, just let everybody be who they are. Stop trying to control the dynamic. Stop trying to put people into your belief system.
Right.
Not everybody is meant to believe how you are. And it's arrogant to think that you're supposed to.
Yeah. And like one thing that's like super crazy right now is like I've had like, youth, younger age kids like reach out or just been at different events where they've asked, and a lot of their questions are about love and about like acceptance of self, acceptance of like just like who they are as a person. And they, questions they've asked are like, my family doesn't support me, my friends don't support me, my, this or that. And it's like their number one question is always like, how do I, and the answer that I always give is like, don't try to force them to love you. Just be who you are, be who you've been created to be.
Yes.
And like the rest will follow suit. If those people don't come with you, unfortunately, those are just not your people.
They're not. And who's to say that some of them weren't just for a season?
Right.
Now, it's more challenging, obviously, not even more challenging, extremely challenging if it's family and if that's really important to you. We all want to feel important. We all want to feel loved.
Right.
We all want to come from something, a unit.
Right.
So if our family is, if we're the odd person out or whatever you want to call it, or I have to be careful what I say. That used to be called the black sheep. We don't want to say that anymore. But it's just the person that doesn't fit into the collective of the family unit or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like if you're different and special and unique, maybe that's exactly what you're meant to be.
Right.
Not only for yourself, but who's to say you're not supposed to shake them up a bit?
Yeah.
Even if it's not your responsibility, you can by being you. And that's what I've had to, I have family that believes very differently than I do.
Exactly.
And some of them I say, you know what? I'm not jiving with you. You do you, I do you. But when they come for me now, I stand up and go, no, you're not coming for me.
No.
Focus on you. Get out of my way.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. Move
Out
the way.
Just move. Because I don't have time.
Yeah.
I might have 20 years ago,
Yeah.
but I'm not the same person. I do not believe we're supposed to stay the same.
Right. Right.
What's the point of that?
No. And if you do, that is...
Yeah, have fun with that.
I don't want that life at all. At all.
No, I don't either.
Well, and it's like, also part of that is, I've had people reach out that are like, you personally, and these are people that have known me a very long time. They're like, you have opened my eyes to things that I didn't know that either I needed to look at within myself, or that like I needed to just learn in general about society, about the way different people live their lives. And that's like such a big part of how you're kind of walking in what you're supposed to be doing, and your purpose in your life is like, if people can come to you and say like, now where you're at in your life and how you're living is teaching me things.
Right.
It's like, I'm not seeking to teach you anything. It's just that's naturally happening because I'm walking on the path that I'm supposed to be walking on.
I love what you just said, because again, it's not our job to teach others. It's our job to be the best we are. And I think for a long time, people pleasing, codependency was, no, I'm here to make everybody happy.
Right.
Not really.
No.
You have to make yourself happy. And that's what I had to learn, because for so long it was like I didn't want any confrontation. But see, this is where you've got the fire, you're the Aries, I'm the Libra. We're the opposite of scales, yet we still work.
Right.
Because air also kind of likes to fuel, and support. But I had to realize, okay, you can do that if you want to and it's healthy for you. but you're not here just to bend over backwards and lose yourself for somebody else.
Right.
So but again, I'm a sensitive person. I use the word empathic because I believe in that and I feel things. And so I think for a long time it was, well, if I just make everybody be okay, I'll be okay. I just drained myself.
Yeah.
Forgot who I was or didn't know who I was.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's ultimately what it ends up doing. It's like every piece of you is being thrown into all of these other people.
Yeah.
And you're not even pouring into the cup to keep you hydrated.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
That's a good one.
I'll come through.
You got some of these things coming in.
I'm like, I don't know where that came from.
Trademark
today.
that one.
Wow. I'm gonna throw that one in the hat and keep her.
Make little tease.
Yeah, a little tease. But it's so true. It's like you have to we've said it and we've talked about that before, and even being a flight attendant previously, it's like putting on your mask first. Like you have to put on.
Oh,
yours
were
first.
you a flight attendant?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
For 6 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I could see it. But yeah, I love that you said that because I bring that up all the time too. Yeah. Put the oxygen mask on first before you give to someone else, right?
Yeah.
You got to do that. Again, that's not narcissistic though.
No, it's not. And it's looking out for you to be able to give to others because you can't do that without first, giving to yourself. So that's a huge part of it. But another question I had for you is you've been dabbling and going into all these different projects and working on, a lot of behind the scenes things. And I was just curious, what that's been like. How did you get into tapping into it? Are you allowed to talk about some of it? Are you not allowed to talk about it?
Some of it.
I just am interested.
Well, okay. So I will always love to be in front of the camera.
Shocking.
Naturally, I enjoy it. And I like being live on stage. I get more freaked out live on stage. Yeah. Because, you get one shot, right? I mean, in that moment. On camera, we can, if it's not completely live, right? We can edit or whatever. Right. Or take 2, take 3. So, yeah, so I made a connection about 9 years ago while I was filming. I used to have a talk show. And it was really to promote inspiring artists and people that were doing amazing things. And so there's an incredible artist, performer, Broadway star, TV star named Annalee Ashford, and she's from Wheat Ridge. And she's done very well. She just was on Sweeney Todd on Broadway opposite of Josh Groban.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Just was Emmy nominated for Chippendales. She was the female lead. So just doing amazing things. But I was interviewing her for a show that she had brought to the Denver Center. And one of the camera guys that was there, we made a connection for 2 hours. Now, anyone watching this, you can make connections, and sometimes it doesn't happen for 9 years later.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is showing up, being your best self, right?
When you think no one's watching, someone's watching. And every time.
He reached out to me. His name is Elgin Cahill. You can check him out on Google, and he's written for Hallmark, Lifetime. He does all these other amazing film projects beyond that. But these are really, people love Christmas. People love those movies. It's kind of a 12-month out of the year thing now. They love Christmas in July. And I've always been a festive person. And so he reached out and said, I want to take this to the next level. I think you could help with your production management expertise. And again, I love challenge. I love connecting. I love scouting. So I'm helping with locations, casting, all of this. But I'm also going to be in some of them.
Yeah.
See, so it's the best of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I do want to also challenge myself as an actor, because I'm not really a trained actor, because what was I trained in? Opera.
Right.
And that is not about acting.
No.
People that know opera, you stand there, it's all about technique of your voice. In fact, no shade, but because I can sing opera and have a degree in it, we're not really taught. It's not about acting. We're not known to be actors.
Right.
But I also have worked on that over the years, and I've done some really cool characters. And so I thought, you know what? I want to challenge myself. So we're working on an LGBTQ-based holiday concept film. And there's ones out there, but we have one that we're working on, and I'm going to be in it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
So, yeah, we make these movies, and then they're sold and to different apps and networks and things. Yeah. And I'm learning so much about it. And so there's a lot occurring. We just wrapped up on 2 recently, and we were just in Fort Collins on location and here, and primarily filmed in Colorado, and that's what's kind of exciting about it, and that's what's exciting to the investors and people getting involved is they kind of like that it's Colorado based because of the snow, the mountains,
very Hallmark.
Very Hallmark. And I used to kind of, I watch them, but over the years I used to be kind of like, oh, they're so silly, but you know what? It's magical, they're fun, and people love them.
Yeah. And now, like, how cool that you're getting to tap into, like, kind of brand new avenues, like even years down the road. And that's such a huge thing that stuck out to me. It's like a lot of things that we experience or like gigs that happen or opportunities that come up, they don't always happen in the moment that you're wanting them to happen.
Right.
And that is something that people get so lost in and give up. You know what I mean? And as someone who's been there, it is very easy to be like, I am done. Like, I'm tired, like of waiting and waiting.
The waiting. And I have to tell you, thank you for saying that, because there's also some of us that are late bloomers. I'm a late bloomer. Now, when I say that, I do feel proud of what I've done.
Right.
I did amazing things in my 20s and my 30s and into my 40s. And now it's really clicking in. It's also, again, the wisdom. I know myself. Now, when I say that, every journey is different, as we've discussed. So someone can have their aha, golden, magical moment at 20 and keep going. We see that with a lot of people in the industry. Yeah. I just happened to have a journey ahead of me where I had to go through a lot of personal things and try different things. But that's the journey.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And so that's why age is just a number. And that's why I get so frustrated when people are like, you hit a certain age and you're like, yeah, it's over. And it's like, no, it's not.
Right.
It's only over if you think it's over.
Yeah. And that is a mindset of your own.
It's a total mindset. And if somebody thinks that I'm washed up at 50, okay, that's your opinion. I'm not, and I don't feel that way. But I also take care of myself.
Right.
You got to do the maintenance when you hit a certain place in your life. You can't just sit around.
Right.
I work out. I eat well. I drink tons of water.
Yeah.
Trace minerals in my water.
Right. And it's like, if you don't do any of that, which I'm the same way, I'm very active and
you're very
in
shape.
But it's like you have to do that because
you do.
And like that's why we're choosing to do that, because it gives us longevity in our careers.
Yes. And why not continue to create until you can't?
Exactly.
And if you have your health and you got your mind and you're loving yourself more than you ever have, then it's kind of like a party.
Yeah. Well, and we see it all the time too, of like these young kids that get famous early, and then by the time, kind of like what you were saying, is like by the time they get to their 20s, their 30s, they're completely
tapped out
or tapped out.
The thing too is the industry, over time, I think it's clearing up some now because it's all coming out, right?
Yeah.
And that thanks to TikTok.
Yes.
Thanks to a lot of platforms where we're learning and educating ourselves and people are telling their stories. But yeah, I think for a long time, especially in I'll just speak like in the 80s when I was growing up, in that time, it was like when I was so enamored with MTV, right? I was like...
MTV.
Right. Yeah. And because that was my time period, right? And it was like, I'm like a 13-year-old going, oh my God, this is pure magic. But there were a lot of people I knew this. I used to interview also on a podcast years ago, and it was recording artists. And do you remember that artist, Amber? Or did you ever hear about her? You probably have heard these songs. You were little, but she had a song called Sexual EDD and all these different This Is the Night and all these dance songs that retro now that you might hear. But she wrote all her songs. She got completely screwed over by the label. They were these #1 dance songs. Right up there with, at the time, Christine W. was really big at the time. All these people that were doing all these dance club songs. Yeah. And she lost everything because she signed a contract. They screwed her over.
And that was that.
Yeah. So again, the business aspect, it's like you have to know your worth, but how do you always know your worth if you don't know yourself or you haven't had the support? You're not thinking of those. The same thing happened to me when I was in LA. When I made that dance album, I worked with this producer, and I got completely screwed over. Completely.
And it's like,
I didn't know
that. Yeah. How would you?
I was 25.
Yeah.
I had no support. My mother had passed.
Yeah.
The rest of the family was in their own world, didn't understand what I was doing. So I was trying to do it all on my own, and I was like, oopsie, should have had a lawyer.
Yeah.
But how do you have a lawyer when you're 25 working 2 jobs in LA?
Mm-hmm. And also not understanding how to get from point A to point
B.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, a lot of hard lessons, but it molded me into who I am today. But that's about not giving up, but allowing yourself sometimes to give up too, if you have to. If if you're struggling with depression, sometimes you have to sit in it, unfortunately, and it sucks.
It sucks.
It's so hard. Or, I know that. And I know so many people are struggling with mental health right now. And I understand why. And I have my days too. But I've learned enough with as long as I've been on the planet to go, okay, I can get out of this now. I know how to get out of it.
Yes.
But for a long time I didn't.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I was suicidal. I know many of us have gone through that, where I remember one time I remember something went really wrong again with the career stuff, and it was just so devastating, and I felt so alone. And I literally remember taking a knife out, no joke. And I was like, I'm just going to slit my wrists. I was literally at that point. So glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Because now look where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think it's being able to do your best with what you have and trying to have the faith and the hope in yourself and in the greater, whatever you believe in. I don't believe in traditional God. I don't believe in religion anymore, but I do believe there's something that we're all collectively a part of, an energy, a source. So I try to just trust myself, know myself, and trust that there's a bigger picture within how I can co-create it.
That is so real. All of that, and like I literally was sitting here and like I felt like I get these weird sensations sometimes where like someone will say something and I like get the chill, like that whole like sensation.
Like your intuition.
It's a thing, yeah. And so like when you were talking about like depression and being suicidal and all of that, like I've so gone through that for years and years and years. But like also what you were saying is like we find a way, hopefully, to always come out of it and like always figure out what that looks like for you. And sometimes what I've learned now is like sitting in it, like you were saying, is literally the only way out of it. And it's like you have to walk straight through it, completely through it, full force, and that is the only way out. And as I've gotten older over the years, I'm like, that was what I was trying everything to avoid the emotion, to avoid the feeling. And
because who wants to go through it?
Yeah. And
it's
now,
not fun.
Yeah. And now you realize like, that's not it. That's not the way out.
It's like some say, again, whatever you resonate with, I'm kind of exploring it now. In the last few years, they call it shadow work. You sit in the shadow, you sit in the darkness, and then the light reveals itself. Well, I used to think that, no, you only had to focus on the light. No, I'm positive. I'm inspiring. Yet behind the scenes, I'm like
crumbling,
Yeah. And now I'm like, no, I got to also, it's okay to admit when you're having a hard time, but realize if you do sit in it, it's hard if you don't have support though.
Right.
If you have, and there's people out there and anyone listening or watching right now, I feel you if you don't, but this is where you got to own it, somehow find that little glimmer of spark of hope within you to say, I am enough. I am worthy. And the people that will celebrate me and see me are there. Sometimes you got to find them.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself permission.
Yes.
To say there's tribe.
Yeah.
Because there is. Right. There's tribe all over.
Right.
You have to find yours.
Yeah. And reach out to people. Like you can't do it alone. And that is one thing that I preach all the time that I'm still working on, because I think a lot of times I can handle everything on my own. And like you have to be able to know when you just need to reach someone. And like when that, even if it's one person, like that can just be like, you got this, like what you're doing and the things that you're focused on, like keep focusing on those things. Cause sometimes it's just your brain trying to trick you into feeling like you're not enough when in reality you are,
Right. Or the story of there is no one like me or I'm all alone for the rest of my life. Do you know there's so many people probably right at the same time saying that?
Yep.
And there are support groups. And that is one thing if you can use social media without going into more of the I'm being shamed or bullied, because I know a lot of young people right now are being bullied online more than they are even in person possibly. And again, when I was being bullied, it was in person, right? And that was destructive, of course. But I think it's being able to find your niche or niche or however you want to call it with even social media. There are people out there that are yearning for connection. But connection is beyond gawking at a story.
Yeah.
And I'm one that doesn't. I'm not saying that. I love my story.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I love it.
Right. Same.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's more to life than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel like human connection, getting in person with people, although learning to trust your intuition, I keep going back to that, because if something feels wrong for you, trust that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, but sometimes we have to strengthen that, and that's the learning.
Yeah.
I really focus on that now. I call it my antenna.
Yeah.
I had a teacher say that to me. It's like your antenna.
Yeah.
And if you can build that inner antenna to know, then you're kind of like, you start to go, okay, is that my shit or someone else's?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that my fear, or is this legit real?
Mm-hmm.
But it takes practice, like working out.
Yeah.
Or if you're a singer, like training your voice, or whatever it is, sports, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You have to practice. But just like with anything, you got to do the work, and doing the work, you have to do the work.
Right. At the end of the day, that's what it really boils down to.
Or not.
Yeah.
It's a choice again.
Yeah. And it's also like, trust in your divine and structured timing for your life. Don't be worried about, who's doing what, who has what, when will it happen? Like, everything, from what I've learned along my journey, is like everything has its own moment in time that's directly specific to where you're supposed to be. And I think so much of our sadness, depression, and like a lot of those things sometimes is we want something before it's ours. And like when it is ours, it will be given to us, And,
I know.
And we get lost in that, for sure.
I agree with you, because for so many years I went, why do I feel like I'm banging my head up against the wall? Or why do I feel like no matter what I put out, it wasn't received? Or because we also have expectation of how many views, how many likes, how many connections, how much money. But you know what? I'm a testament of this. I mean, it's like, I'm a half a century. When I say that, it sounds so weird. But I am. And I'm proud of it.
Owning it.
I'm owning it, and I'm here. And will I maybe be going to the doctor soon? Maybe. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I'm talking about, I don't know. I've thought about that. It's a whole different discussion. But, that's our own personal journey, too. I think about that, and I think because I have so much I still want to do, and because I feel so vibrant and so youthful and so alive and so playful, and I finally really love myself, I'm like, oh my God, it's like a kid in a candy store.
Right.
But then it's like, then the body's going, well, but every day is going towards aging. We all are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you got to look at it like, how important is that? And is it like, it's really about your inner joy and your light. That's what matters, because you can look as perfect as you want, but if you're kind of dead inside,
that's what's gonna show.
That's what shows.
Yeah.
So I kid about it, but it's real for me too, because I was raised by an incredible mom, but she was very vain. She is one that told me about skincare at a young age, to wear sunscreen. Thank God, as a fair-skinned person, because I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, in the desert. Imagine if I wouldn't have worn sunscreen, I'd be like really shriveled.
Pruning over here.
Really pretty. So but again, those are, some people could care less about that.
Yeah.
It's all who you are, what you've been around, and there's no shame in either of it. It's how you feel about yourself. It's really about how you treat yourself, and if you feel better by getting a little help and that makes you happy, then go for it.
Right.
If it's for you.
Right.
I think it's when we do it for other people again.
Yeah. Do everything for you.
For you.
And no one else. That's what it really
And any given day it can change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like I might have said 5 years ago, I will never do that.
Yeah.
And now I might say, now I'm going to do that.
Yeah. 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 And that's the verbiage that changes over
Right.
time. Well, I can't believe that this time has gone by so fast, but also I can, because it's us, and we could just talk forever.
Right.
But the one question that I want to ask you, and just closing out today, is,
Sure.
we all, both you and I, seek to really make change in this world, and to really make our mark, and to really leave something behind, that when all this is said and done, that we know that we gave our best and put our best foot forward. And so I ask everyone this question, and it is if cash could talk, if anything in your life that you could really make happen and really see a change and create change in the world, what change would you make? What would it look like for you? Anything that just speaks to you that you would want to change just within your own power?
With my own power, I think everything we're talking about is really helping people be. I want to be a mirror. I don't want to do I'm not here to change people. I'm not here to necessarily, as we use the term, wake people up or whatever you want to call it. I just want to live my bliss now and be true to who I am in the moment that I am.
Absolutely.
And be open to continue learning and growing and evolving and creating and experiencing. That's the freedom for me.
Yeah.
And I just want to connect to like-minded souls all over the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, if I had more visibility, that's what it would mean to me now. It wouldn't be, look at me.
Yes.
Validate me.
Right.
It's the freedom to live the human experience. So that's what I would love to inspire in others, to be who I am. And if they mirror back, oh my God, I want some of that.
Yeah.
Then I'm doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah. And
to trust yourself, to learn to trust yourself. Because we really have all the answers. We just don't think we do.
Right. Right. And the faith of your, and faith doesn't have to be in a religious manner.
No,
it's
and
faith
it can be if
yeah,
that makes you happy.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
It's whatever you do to be a better person. The issue I have is when you project it on other people and shame other people for not doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
That doesn't serve any good.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
And I love what you're doing, and I want to honor and celebrate you right now because you get up, you put yourself out there. I know you've had people try to smack you down, and you know what? That's their deal. You keep being you, and some more of the world better watch out. Because you're here, and we might be doing some work together too.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Can I just do a little quick shout out?
Yeah, a little quickie.
If you're in town and not somewhere else, wink, wink, June 5th, we might be doing a little something down at the Denver Improv Comedy Club.
Yes, we've got some things in the works for the people to stay tuned for.
Yeah, so that's just a little tease.
Yeah, a little tease, just to pick your brain a little bit. Well, before I do the closing out stuff, give the people where they can find you on the Instagram, social medias, all the things.
Well, so my name I was born with is Eugene Ebner, so that's Ebner, and my husband's name is Paul Page, so that's Ebner-Page Productions. So Ebner-PageProductions.com. On my socials, I'm on TikTok under Eugene Ebner. Instagram is either Eugene Ebner or Eugene Ebner-Page. I know Facebook is outdated, so I'm not even going to bring that up. Now, one I'm not on, and I might get back on, is X or old Twitter, just because we all vibe in different things.
Right.
I prefer Instagram, TikTok.
Same.
You know, I'm not a one tweet I'm not like I'm more of a I want to express myself person.
Right. Shocking. I wouldn't believe that at all.
Right. But as I'm, to expand the work and on the presence, I might get back on there again. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I'll link all the social media info as well. But I want to say thank you so much for joining me today and just being vulnerable, chatting all the things. And I feel like our conversations in real life and just here in general are all real and all about love and just really making change that we both want to see. And I just want to say that I truly, truly appreciate you for sharing.
Thank you. I received that, and I feel the same way about you. And I'm just so inspired by you, how fearless you are, and how you're so fierce in your craft, yet you are incredibly empowering and inspiring. And I think that's what it's about. Is you're in your community, you're a light, and you're doing it in your own unique way. And some people won't like that.
No,
but that's their problem.
Yeah. And I just gotta keep
shining.
Yeah.
Shine, shine, shine. Allow yourself to feel dimmed once in a while, to recharge again, to shine even brighter.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you all so much for listening to another episode today of Cash Talks here at Dude IDK Studios. I am so thankful for this conversation today with Eugene, and I can't wait for y'all to see what's in store next for the both of us. So stay tuned. We'll see you again soon. Peace and love.